Here, stepping in for Patty, Craig Patterson, aka Moose Cockerson, and we are on the Rainmaker show. I just got back from Jamaica late last night,
Making some rain down in Jamaica, man, huh?
that was the Rainmaker dance. That was one of the dance moves I learned on the sailboat. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought we'd talk a little bit about quality over quantity, and I know it's tough. You got the "Gym ain't easy" kind of slogan, and gym ain't easy because you don't make enough money doing it, right? And so, Rainmaker is all about teaching you guys strategies and tactics and philosophies for how to make more money doing what you're doing, but how to balance that against the whole idea of quantity versus quality. How do you have a quality business, a quality practice over just numbers?
Yeah,
so that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, I think that's a big thing is we can't just chase the numbers, right? The numbers will work if you're doing everything else right? The quality, if the quality's there, the numbers will work out. But I think a lot of people, they get hyper focused on sometimes on the numbers, and they don't realize that if they're not paying attention to the process, then it's not going to work out in the long run.
That's the key, right? And so one of the things we like to talk about is you get to build your world, right? And your environment, our environments are merciless reflections of ourselves. And so I think, and that comes from Earl Nightingale, the motivational maven who started Nightingale Conant. And, I think what he's talking about there, not just the environment in terms of you got air conditioning and flowers in your house and, a refrigerator and a nice couch to sit on, but I think he's talking about the relationships in your life as well. And since MadLab's programming and what we're trying to encourage practitioners and gym owners to do is really embrace the idea of a professional relationship with your clients versus just being perceived as a commodity and they just pay you for renting your gym.
Exactly. That's the hardest shift that we have to get in people's minds, is that they're not paying for renting space, or they're not even really paying for your time, but they're paying for your expertise and your services, right? So what we want is them to understand that the time spent with us is, the benefits are magnified outside of the gym and in their lives, right? It's not just the 60 minutes we spent together in the gym. It's actually the stuff they learned that then they apply outside of that. That's the real value that we're providing.
That's it. And so, establishing that value is really speaking to the notion of quality, because if the consumer just thinks of you as a place to go to an exercise class or a waiter to hire to make you do exercises that they wouldn't normally do on their own, then that's what you'll be worth, is what waiters make and what people make in the retail setting selling bananas and batteries, and so switching over and understanding one consumer, your suspect, your prospect, because this whole quality of relationship begins in the sales transaction. That's when you start to be able to find out what they're looking for, and you get to communicate what you're looking for, because it's kind of a joint interview. They're interviewing you to find out if you provide the services and products at prices they're interested in. You're interviewing them to figure out whether or not you want to let them into your world and give your expertise and time and resources to them.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked about many times in the past, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about getting coaches and everybody trained on how to do this process, because if you're just taking every single person you can get because you're desperate for clients, then you're going to end up with a lot of clients that you don't necessarily connect with. And there's nothing wrong with them necessarily, but it's just not people that you want to spend your time with and invest all your energy with over 5, 10, 20 years. And if the better you get at finding humans and interviewing them and getting them into working with you, the better your life's going to be. And the sooner you do that, the better.
Yeah, because I'm sure that if I ask whoever's listening to this broadcast, you have names on your book, faces that you see, and when you see them, you go, oh no, I got to work with so-and-so for an hour. I got to deal with this person for the next 45 minutes, right? And if you've got, a couple people slip in, that's fine. But if there's several people that are in your world and you just don't really want them there because they're excessively draining your energy and not appreciating and respecting you, that's a problem. Now you're moving towards a low quality practice. And this is what you do, 40, 50, 60 hours a week? It's a pretty significant chunk of your life spent doing something. And by golly, you certainly would hope that it would be quality. I mean, we spend so much time talking about the quality of a repetition, the quality of a workout, the quality of your nutrition, right? The quality of all this stuff. Well, we got to talk about the quality of your practice, the quality of your business. And that's really a reflection of the people you allow in your business. And so what I would suggest to everybody is, have you sat down and really just drawn up what characteristics and properties do you want to see in your ideal client?
Yes.
Do you even know who your ideal client profile is? And again, it's ideal, and I doubt you're going to find somebody who hits every single point, but my goodness, they better hit most of them. And so what would you say would be like some of the things, like how many characteristics should they list for an ideal client? As many as they can initially. I'd sit down with your staff and start doing a little brainstorm. I mean, like I can give you my ideal client description for our business here, right? Our ideal client is an open-minded, preventive-oriented 40 to 60-year-old male or female that places a high value on their physical capabilities. They understand its urgent contribution to their quality of life. They're proactive about problem solving their health issues, and they have the discretionary income and are willing to pay for care. And if someone doesn't fit into that general profile, we got to start asking some questions about why they should be in my life and what I should be doing with them and whether they shouldn't be, because I don't want to work with closed-minded, reactionary-oriented people who really don't care about their physical health or bodies or put a low priority on it in their life and struggle with discretionary income to handle that, because we're in a cash-based business. And so our customers need to see and feel the value to justify the prices that professionals pay. Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to quality of the process of the sales process, the communication process, and getting these coaches to understand what that means, what would you say? How would you explain that? Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that it's no different than any relationship in your life, in the sense that when you meet someone for the first time, you're feeling them out a little bit, right? You're not, meeting some. I see these crazy reality shows, right, where two people get married that never met each other before, or they try to rush the process over a few week period, right? What are some of these shows called, right? What happens? They end in disaster. It's just a nightmare, right? Because it takes some time to get to know somebody and understand their value system and their preferences. And so, we don't have 3 months to date a potential customer, taking them out to dinner, right, and meeting them out for movies and stuff. We got a pretty short period of time to try to make a connection, build some trust bridges. And so it's really about taking it a little bit slower in the beginning and do the heavy lifting of building into the relationship before you start asking for money, right? Take some time to sit down and talk to them. Talk to them on the phone for 15 minutes. Then sit down with them and talk to them face-to-face for 60 to 75 minutes, helping them understand who you are and trying to figure out who they are and what they want in the context of this exercise fitness thing. Do the assessment, sit back down with them afterwards. So in the beginning, it seems a little slow and a lot of investment in trying to build this foundation of who they are and tell them who you are. But man, long term, it pays off, right? This is the problem with selling, 6-week boot camps and 8-week boot camps with Groupons. You don't know anybody. You sold them a banana. They show up, they eat the banana, they're done. They don't want bananas anymore. They want apples, they want a pear, and they want to try some cherries. They're in season. So they leave your gym and they just jump around getting different pieces of fruit all around the city, versus understanding the relational idea and that you're not just a commodity. And the sales process and the interview process and the questioning, the assessment process, all of this stuff in the beginning helps to really establish the tone and frame of the relationship.
So from a quality over quantity standpoint, what you're saying is it's, it shouldn't be trying to book as many interviews as possible and getting as many people, lined up. Is more about, even on the phone, filtering that, the first step, and trying to, only sit down with the people that you have a good feeling about, and then even filtering them again. And it's an interview process. I like the dating analogy that you use. It's like, if it's true, if you try to rush the relationship and you try to do too much, even if we're not talking about sleeping with them, but we all know that it's not usually a good idea to, most people who end up sleeping together the first night or two don't end up usually having a long-term relationship that's very successful. So it does happen. But even in the case of, like, if you start all of a sudden, showing up at her work and giving her flowers, or, totally stalking them, that could be overwhelming too. It's a slow process, and you have to be patient and make sure that those interactions are quality. Yeah.
And I think that's a good point, Jeremy. And this is the tactics, the communication strategies that we try to teach is, how do you do this without spooking somebody? Because the consumer's coming in already kind of pre-spooked about the whole sales transaction. Their antennas are up. They're kind of a little tentative. They're protective. They don't really want to tell you the truth about everything. They're looking for expediency, short-term thinking. And this doesn't help them, really. I understand, and we talk about why that is the case. But without some significant skills, communication-wise, you're going to have a hard time breaking those walls down and trying to figure out how to build, bridges of trust, again, in a pretty short period of time, that create a meaningful relationship potential for both of you, and that they understand that you're not the usual thing. You're not just another shelf item of fitness that they just pull off the shelf and try for a couple of weeks and then put back on the shelf and then try something else. That's not who you are. And it's going to take a little bit of time for you to explain that to them, because the consumer doesn't know this.
Yeah, this thought just came to my head. I've been married way too long, and I know you have too. That to use any sort of dating app,
right?
But they're called dating apps, but for the most part, they're not really facilitating. I think a lot from the friends that I have that have talked about it, they're not really about making meaningful relationships, right? It's more like, you're just sort of killing time and maybe having someone to have fun with for a short period of time. Put them on the shelf, if you will, when you're done with them. And that's what I see when I see these marketing, these quick, where the profile of that you're selling them is just like the profile on the Tinder or whatever, where it's kind of you, it's your best photos. It's this, you round it up on your height and, elaborated a little bit on your hobbies and what your interests are to try to catch as many fish. In fact, there are people, I think the term's called, is it called fishing?
Catfishing or something? Right.
Yeah, where you put up a fake photo, it's not even you, and then just to get them to meet you in person, and then you try to close the deal right away. Versus there are apps and services that are a little more designed to try to connect people who really have a lot in common, and then those. But it's funny when you go on those dates, it's really much a lot more slow. It's more just getting to know each other, and if it doesn't work out, there's no hard feelings, because it's not a hookup app. Right. And we're not trying to sell the hookup, right? We're trying to sell in these meaningful relationships.
Yes. And so I would much rather take a little longer period of time, because I'm in business for the long haul as well. And I'm sensitive and empathetic to the struggle between, I got to pay my rent. I get it. But the bias should be leaning towards quality more and more over time versus just trying to stuff quantity in and hot potatoing and hopscotching from quantity grab to quantity grab to quantity grab, which tends to lead to these high churn rates. And that's no fun.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a downward spiral, or slippery slope or whatever you want to call it, where where you start doing that, and then it just reinforces the perception of that's all you are, is a banana, and then it's the longer you do it, the more to get out of that hole.
Yeah, you're conditioning your local community and pigeonholing yourself in their perceptions of you, and it's hard to back out of that. Once first impressions are established, it's pretty hard to unwind from those things. And I know many of you are experiencing that now as you switch from the older model of kind of quantity grab, high churn, turnover, Groupon, all that stuff, and try to switch over, to this quality model. I can just tell you in the long run, it's quality is the way to go. You'll have a much more enjoyable professional life if you have high quality professional relationships and people who understand and respect who you are. And the sales transactions are where all of it begins. You've got to lay the foundation properly, and the sales process is where the foundation for the relationship gets laid. There's just no doubt about it.
I would even say that starting with the ideal client and is kind of like, and then starting when you do your relationship marketing, we talk a lot about putting things on your website. They're going to speak to those people that you want to work with. And then advertising, or at least putting it in places where those people can see it. It's kind of like selecting the building site, right? Before you even build the foundation.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
Right. And it's like, you got to pick your building site first. And then it starts with, you got to know what kind of place you want to build this place. But it goes back to the selecting your ideal client. That's something we have in our online school for the coaches in their first couple months before they're even selling anything yet. They're still just apprenticing and shadowing people. They need to start thinking about who their ideal client is. And so when they're observing other coaches and other clients in the gym, they be like, oh, I like this person, or, oh, that's not a person I would probably click with. So I probably don't want a lot of those people, in having that ideal client. And then, like I said, then as you guys as coaches and as the businesses start putting out the content that's going to reach those people and really, really kind of speak to them.
What kind of fish you want to catch?
I didn't get a chance to do any spear fishing when I was in Jamaica. This is a good analogy. So I did go deep sea fishing for the first time. So we're on this big, beautiful 43-foot yacht, and they had 6 lines out, and we're dragging the bait fish was almost a foot long, trying to catch marlin or something. And we go out on a 4-hour tour and come back with nothing. Because we're just out dragging along, versus like I know you use the analogy of fishing, is you got to know what kind of fish you want to keep, right? And if you just go out and try to catch whatever you can, sometimes you'll get some. Or what if we caught stuff we didn't want, and instead of actually selecting the fish that you want.
Yeah, certain fish like certain baits. They like to eat at certain times of day, right? And so you got to know this, and you're not going to catch them all the time, but you got to go out and do it. And that's the key. So if you can dovetail a great marketing program with, a targeted niche message combined with your own efforts, going out into your community, because that's the thing you can control, is going out and meeting people one-on-one, doing small group presentations to clubs and like-minded businesses. You'll find and start catching the fish you want to catch and eat. There's just no doubt about it. And then you'll have a nice, freezer full of fish that you like to eat, and you'll look forward to coming into the kitchen every day and cooking that stuff up. And that's what we're trying to create. And it might take a couple years, but long term, it's worth it.
I met a guy flying back, and he's lived in Jamaica now for 16 years. Mm-hmm. He's retired military, did some real high speed stuff, and then just spent couple or $300,000-$400,000 and built a mansion that if it was in Florida and on the beach like his, it would be worth about $25 million. He goes out every 3 or 4 days a week, and he loves to swim, and he goes out with the elastic spear gun and he catches lobster, and he just goes out and he'll swim 3-4 miles, sometimes 8 miles, and just collect a bunch of lobsters, and then he freezes them and he sells them. But he's retired, he doesn't need it, but he'll brings them back to his family and stuff, and because he loves lobster and everybody else loves lobster, and that's his fish. Took him a long time to figure out that niche market, but he's not out just randomly shooting everything he finds. He's looking specifically for those hard to find lobsters.
Yep. And he loves them, and he knows where they are. He knows where to catch them. Probably took a little bit of time to figure that out, but he figured it out, and that's it.
So on this note, and we'll end it after this, is one thing that I've found is that when you educate the client from day one how you're different with your services and your your professional presentation, when those people talk to their friends and family, they're going to say, no, this is not what you like. You might think it's a trainer. It's not like that at all. Or it's probably not like anything you've ever tried in the past. And that takes time. But after you've been doing this 2 or 3 years, all that hard work pays off, because then the new people coming in know exactly what they're getting into, because their friends have told them, you got to talk to Greg. You got to talk to JJ. These guys are going to take care of you. Totally different than anything you've ever tried. But what's the best way? If you have other clients that maybe we call them legacy clients that kind of maybe came in under a different model that now are bought in, but they still don't really know how to explain it. What sort of ways can we make sure that they're explaining it to their friends and family and coworkers, so that they understand what we're trying to do?
Yeah, I think that's an important point and a difficult one, because again, how much time would you need to really tell someone what's in your head and all the knowledge and experience you have and can bring to the table? It could take years for a customer to experience all aspects of your expertise, because you're not bringing to bear your expertise, all of it, in every session. You're doling it out progressively as needed based on how their situation is evolving and progressing. And so it's really about, I think, that coach for life idea, and that the consumer's educated to understand that their body changes over time, which requires an expert to help modify and edit and revise their exercise programming over time. And that there's lots of different ways to think about exercise. It's not just jumping around and burning calories all day, no matter what you do. And that the consumer needs to understand that they could be hurt exercising. And if they're not careful, don't have an expert helping them manage the volumes and intensities, they could get hurt doing this. And so these are some of the key things to help the consumer understand. And that exercise is more than how it's pigeonholed now, right? Exercise is what? Weight loss and sports performance. That's why we exercise, right? I mean, there are so many other health reasons that have nothing to do with weight loss or sports performance to exercise. Brain health, endocrine health, intestinal health. I mean, exercise profoundly influences a diverse amount of the body's systems. And so this is what the consumer needs to understand, and that they need to exercise for life, and that across the lifespan, they need an expert to help them manage the changes that will occur in their own body as they age, and that their exercise programming and fitness programming needs to be adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, I don't think I came up with this analogy, but I think I was talking to a client about this, and that talking about transactions and versus long-term relationships. And if you've ever had like imagine you only had one car the rest of your life, and it's not maybe it's not even a regular car. It's had a lot of modifications over the years, so it's pretty unique. I think a lot of people they don't mind going in for a $20 or $30 oil change, and they'll take it to the random shop that has got a brand, and they'll change their oil. But they're not the same as having a really good mechanic that has been working on your car for 5 or 10 years and has worked on similar ones for even longer. And when you take it in for an oil change, they're going to see the things before they become a problem and say, hey, by the way, I changed this because it was going to be a problem for you, so you would have been stranded. Or hey, you should come back again in a couple months and we'll take care of this other issue that we found. And when you have a great mechanic like that you can trust, that's somebody you bring all your cars and all your friends to, because you know that this person's going to take care of you. The quick oil change down the street isn't going to do any of that stuff. And right now everyone sees trainers and these fitness coaches as that it's the quick lube or whatever. It's not a real generationally owned family mechanic that people their grandparents themselves, their parents and them all bring their cars to the same shop because they're so good.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. I think that's right on point. That's great.
Cool. Well, we'll end it here, guys. Thanks a lot. I saw some cheering on Facebook, but I didn't see any questions. So we'll end it here. Look forward to the next episode of The Rainmaker.
Go make some rain, people. Let's go.
All right. Mack, you can go ahead and kill it, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye-bye.